They called it the Switzerland of the Middle East. What if I told you it was already dead? 72 billion in losses. Created from nothing. A Ponzi scheme hiding in plain sight. People went to banks with guns, not to rob them, to take their own money. August 4th, 2020, the explosion that symbolized everything. They knew. For 7 years, they knew. This is Lebanon's collapse. But ask yourself, could it happen to you? Lebanon's economy was already dead for 7 years before anyone admitted it. The banks? They knew. The government? They knew. Your savings were funding their lie. 1950s to the 70s, Lebanon was called the Switzerland of the Middle East. Banking, luxury, stability. Banks paid 18% interest on dollar deposits. Foreign money flooded in. It felt safe. Then came the Civil War, 1975 to 1990. 15 years of destruction. But afterward, the banks came back. They pegged the Lebanese pound to the dollar, 1 to 507. Fixed forever. Or so they promised. Foreign dollars kept coming in, remittances, tourism, Gulf investments. The system looked healthy. But underneath, the government was bleeding money. Deficits every year, debt climbing to 150% of GDP. Here's what they never told you on TV. The banks were running a Ponzi scheme. New deposits paid old depositors. The central bank invented something called financial engineering. They paid 20% interest to attract dollars. But where did that 20% come from? Nowhere. They were printing promises, creating 72 billion in losses. Why did politicians allow this? Because they profited. Corruption, clientelism, the elite captured everything. By 2011, the money stopped coming in. Syrian war, Gulf tensions, Hezbollah sanctions. The inflow dried up. But the banks kept promising 20% returns. New deposits paid old ones. Classic Ponzi. It couldn't last. October 17th, 2019. Protests exploded. A WhatsApp tax was the spark, but people knew the system was broken. The banks panicked. They froze accounts, informal capital controls. You could see your balance, but you couldn't touch it. March 2020, Lebanon defaulted on its debt, first time in history. 1.2 billion unpaid. The country was bankrupt. The Lebanese pound collapsed from 1507 to the dollar to 90,000. 98% gone. Hyperinflation hit 221%. Food prices up 500%. People couldn't afford bread. By 2022, public debt reached 357% of GDP, the highest in the world. Unsustainable. Impossible to repay. August 4th, 2020, the Beirut Port exploded. 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate, 218 dead, 300,000 displaced, hospitals destroyed, grain silos gone, 15 billion in damage. The explosion was symbolic. It was the physical manifestation of the rot. Ammonium nitrate stored for 7 years. Everyone knew. No one acted. GDP fell 40%, from 55 billion to 28, one of the worst collapses since the 19th century. The World Bank called it one of the top 3 worst financial crises globally in modern history. Lebanon was shattered. 70 to 80% now live in poverty. The middle class? Wiped out. Families that had savings had nothing. People went to banks with guns. Hostage situations, not robberies. They were taking their own money, their frozen deposits. Electricity? 1 to 2 hours a day. Medicine shortages, hospitals collapsing, cholera outbreaks. Basic services? Gone. Brain drain accelerated. The educated left. The young fled. Doctors, engineers, teachers, gone. Lebanon was bleeding its future. By 2024, another war. Israel and Hezbollah. 14 billion more in damages. 64,000 displaced again. 1 million people food insecure, skipping meals. Children going hungry. In a country that once exported luxury. Depositors lost 80 to 90% of their savings in real value. A lifetime of work erased. Nearly 1 million accounts frozen. Protests continued for years, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, into 2026, people demanding accountability, getting nothing. The government resigned after the explosion, then nothing changed. Same elites, same corruption, same system. Different faces. Forensic audits? Stalled. Bank restructuring? Delayed. IMF negotiations? Stuck. The elite protected themselves. So what can we learn? Lesson 1. When interest rates are too high, someone is paying. Usually you. Lesson 2. Currency pegs are illusions. They work until they don't. And when they break, the collapse is instant. Lesson 3. Elites will never reform themselves. They benefit from the chaos. They'll block every real change until forced. Lesson 4. Ponzi schemes in banking aren't illegal until they collapse. Then everyone pretends they didn't know. Lesson 5. When your entire economy runs on inflows, you're not building, you're borrowing time. Lebanon never built production. Lesson 6. The IMF can't save you if your politicians don't want to be saved. 7 years later, still no deal. Lesson 7. The Golden Age? It was built on other people's instability. Syrian capital flight, Palestinian refugees, regional money. The Switzerland comparison? False. Switzerland builds watches and pharmaceuticals. Lebanon built nothing, just financial intermediation. 2025 brought modest growth, 3.5%. Tourism returned, remittances flowed, but the banks still insolvent. Inflation dropped, the pound stabilized, but deposits still frozen. Poverty still 80%. The wound is open. By 2026, new government, new president, reform talks. But here's the truth. The same families still control the system. No bankers in jail, no politicians prosecuted, no accountability for the explosion. The investigation stalled by the very people responsible. This is what state capture looks like, when the elite are the state, when corruption isn't a bug, it's the system. Lebanon's collapse wasn't a mistake, it wasn't bad luck. It was design, a system built to extract until there was nothing left. And the scar? It's this. An entire generation learned that the system doesn't fail them. The system is the failure. Other countries watch Lebanon and think that won't happen here. But Lebanon thought that too in 1975, and in 1995, and in 2015. The Switzerland of the Middle East became a warning. When you build an economy on fiction, reality comes fast, and it comes complete. Lebanon's collapse was born from silence, from looking away, from believing it couldn't happen. Until it did.